What's up, everybody? My name is Shannon, and I am still waiting for my Satyr, and today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about Dooku Jedi Lost by Cavan Scott. So I think the biggest takeaway from this book is getting to see Dooku's perspective, because he's a very interesting character. He's somebody who is with the Jedi Order for a very long time. Like, he doesn't fall from grace until he's like well on in years, and the fact that he does, and then he becomes, you know, like a Sith Lord and like all this kind of stuff, it's very interesting, and we never really had any kind of backstory or any kind of reasoning for why that happened, and now we do, because we get to start off when Dooku is 10 years old, and we're going all the way up until he leaves the Jedi Order. And what you find out is that Dooku is somebody who wants change. He wants to inspire change, and he starts to feel as he gets older that the Jedi Order is really holding him back, and then that's finally what makes him turn from the Jedi, is that, you know, they're holding him back. He needs to do more. He can do more if he leaves the Order. That's spurred on as well by the fact that he finds out when he's around 10 or 11 about his family. They go on a kind of field trip, like a Jedi field trip, to the planet Sereno, and he encounters his brother and sister. Like, of course he doesn't know who they are. Jedi are taken when they're basically like right when they're born, so he doesn't know that he has his family, but he's drawn to his sister, Jenza. They have this really interesting connection, almost like a force bond, to the point where it is very Reylo. And I gotta give props to my friend MC from the What the Force podcast, and she said that she believes that they're trying to show this relationship in different ways to get us ready for how it's finally going to work in episode 9, which I think is very, very interesting. But in meeting Jenza, he's very fascinated by his past. He's very fascinated by this planet and his family. He wants to learn more. He wants to stay in touch with Jenza, and despite the Jedi's wishes, he does, and they do form a bond. They do form a relationship, and he talks to her for many, many, many years. Like, that's how we actually have the story, because Ventress in the present is going through all of their communication, trying to find Jenza, trying to find her for Dooku, and trying to find out a little bit more about his character. We know that Jedi don't encourage attachments, especially not to your family, who you are supposed to let go, because Jedi are supposed to be your family now. So the fact that this continues on with Dooku is very worrying for the Jedi, but for the most part, he's able to kind of slide by. It's not till much later that it finally really starts getting to him. And actually, there's a part in the book when the Jedi finally find out that he's been talking with his sister, and it's really cool. Like, it's just, the angst is so good. I love it so much. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I live for. Honestly, the biggest takeaway from this book, though, comes in a chapter where Dooku and Sifo Dyas are with a Jedi Master. They're on this planet, they go into this forest, and they have lots and lots of visions. They're kind of plagued by the dark side a little bit, and they're trying to heal themselves, and they are introduced to a practice that has to do with wrapping your arms, and you say this chant about walking into the light, acknowledging the darkness, and finding the balance in between. And you do it palm up, you wrap the bindings around your arms, and Dooku actually wears these bindings for the rest of the book, and he'll frequently say this chant to himself to keep him centered. And that's a really big deal, this chant here, this walking towards the light, acknowledging the darkness, finding the balance in between. We actually get that as well in Master and Apprentice, because Qui-Gon Jinn kind of comes to that realization, and we know that if we're moving towards redemption in episode 9, you have to see some kind of reconciliation with that. Like, Ben Solo can't just like magically become redeemed. Like, he has to walk towards the light because it is the light, but he has to acknowledge that darkness that does still live within him, that pull to the dark side. You know, he's feeling that pull to the light, but obviously there is still a lot of darkness in him as well. All of that pain and suffering he's gone through, you can't just forget it. You have to acknowledge it to find the balance in between. Like, that is such a big deal, and that adds so much to all of Star Wars, just knowing this simple fact. The fact that it's arm bindings, and like, you know, that's part of Rey's costume, that's part of the daughter from Mortis, like Ventress wears these. There's so much here, and there's so much going forward. Like, this is the reason why this book is not to be missed. I mean, yes, it's amazing to see this progression with Dooku and to draw the parallels between him and Anakin and him and Ben Solo. But the fact that we have this little insight into the Force here is mind-blowing, and it's a game changer, especially going into The Rise of Skywalker. If you haven't read this book, highly recommend that you do, and if you have, I would love to hear your theories about this chant in particular, but also about some of the other things that we learned in this book. There's a couple of things with Sith beasts. I think maybe we're setting up possibly some like post-9 material. We do know that we're getting something called Project Luminous in 2020, which is going to be books and comics and all that kinds of stuff. So maybe this could also be setting up some of that stuff. I know Cavan Scott's also working on that. So that's really interesting. Overall, this book really just poses so many interesting theories, and especially if you read it in tandem with Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray, it gives you a lot to think about, which is just really awesome. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, be sure to hit that like button down below. Don't forget to subscribe so you can talk books with me every week. That is everything I got for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.